Welcome to Bitstorm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Trevor Scott, and with me as always is Ben Slinger.
Yepers, yep I am. Hello, welcome. Hello, everybody.
God, I'm going to cut that bit out. Okay.
What? You threatening to cut me out already with 27 seconds into the show.
Yeah.
Come on, you abuse of power. Yeah, I'm Ben Slinger. You're Trevor Scott. This is Bitstorm. We're going to do a thing, and I think, Trevor, you would like to start with something a little bit different this week.
Just a little bit different. So, quite a while ago, we came up with a few different ideas for the show, and we've done some of these before, mostly in the first half of the last century, where we take some old existing games, and we discuss what it would be like to reboot or remake them in today's technology.
Yeah, not old Bitstorm games. Maybe we'll save that for episode 200. We'll go back and reboot old Bitstorm games.
That's just like so self-referential that it's like
that it just might work.
Circle jerk.
Yeah, so we're gonna look at some old games. And I think you've been playing a bunch of old DOS games. You know, this is our childhood. We're in our late 30s, and our memories are of loading up discs on like floppy disks. Some of them literally floppy, and messing around with your config.sys to get them working. So we'll take a look at some of those.
So as a little bit of an idea, think about the old DOS game Prince of Persia and what was done with that in the early 2000s when they turned them into 3D and they became massively big selling games. Well, what would happen if we took something that we've already talked about in a gritty reboot before many moons ago, but Commander Keen? Yeah,
last time we did Commander Keen, it was sort of in the context of, I think, of a click pitch actually. But let's take it anew and think about how we would reboot this. So let's say, one way we could start this is, do we want to think of maybe like what studio would tackle something like this?
Ooh.
Current day sort of AAA studio would take on the Commander Keen license.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of maybe a Rare taking it on, or...
Okay, so you're kind of thinking stick to the sort of cartoony style. The main reason why I've sort of said Commander Keen is because just today, like during my lunch break, I played the first episode of Commander Keen, Marooned on Mars, and that came about because I saw like something about the Mars lander and pictures on Twitter and all that sort of stuff, and I'm like, that's right, there was a Commander Keen game, and I'd already had the games there, so I thought I'd check it out, and yeah, I just wanted to see what would happen if we rebooted Marooned on Mars. Okay, so let's maybe think of the general storyline. Do you want to go... You've been playing it. Do you want to sort of give us an idea of the plot?
Yep, so Commander Keen is, or Billy Blaze as he's called outside of that. I don't think we stick with that because his rocket ship was a really dodgily called Bean with Bacon Mega Rocket. I think we can come up with better... with a better kid's name.
I don't know, but you gotta still ship. Reference it, right? Like, anyway, maybe we'll get some sponsorship. It'll be like the Heinz blaster or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. The beans.
So he's flying around, gets marooned on Mars, and has to go collect the 4 pieces of his ship from the Vorticons.
Classic. Whenever spaceships explode, they explode in such a way that they will spread their pieces as far as possible across a planet. Everybody knows this. You really should have thought of that. Okay, so you're thinking Rare. You're kind of going along like Banjo-Kazooie-ish 3D platformer polished style,
but with a lot more verticality.
Okay, well that makes sense because Did he have it in the first one? The pogo stick?
Yes. So. The first level you have to go through without a pogo stick, and then you get about not 3/4 of the way through. You go literally after you finish the first level, you can actually make your way up to where the pogo stick is.
Right.
And the pogo stick is actually like a relic of like the Vorticons that they sort of worship, and you just happen to steal it.
All right, so that's cool because we could keep that, and because then it could be this super cool alien looking. It's not even really a pogo stick necessarily. Maybe it's a fucking weapon, but he just
he's a kid. He doesn't think of it as a weapon. He's just like, it blasts out, kinetic energy or something. It's like, cool, I can fucking ride this.
So I'm thinking a third person
Yeah.
Action adventure in a 3D sort of realm.
Yeah.
But there are sections in which it goes back to 2D.
Okay. Just in that sort of nostalgic way that reboots tend to do.
Yeah, sort of like occasionally in Super Mario Odyssey, you go into a pipe and all of a sudden you'd be in a 2D sort of world.
Yeah. Are you thinking we keep it like 2.5D, just fixed camera with the same sort of graphics, or you want to go full
2.5D fixed camera? You get to a certain part of a level, and you see lots of platforms that are just sort of vertical. Yeah, and look, you get down to the bottom of it, and bang, it just switches over to the 2D.
Do a bit of a homage to some of the levels from the original game or something. If you've just recently played it, maybe you'll pick up on the fact that they're similarly placed.
Oh, believe me, you would not want to do that because some of them were really, really badly designed.
I'm not saying do all of them. Pick a good one.
Most of them were not memorable at all. The most memorable part about it was the character and like his movement, which was just simple jump, pogo stick, and shoot. So literally that's all he needed. There was no gadgets, no nothing other than that. It was just...
All right, so we've talked about the pogo stick. The jumping, is it going to be sort of exaggerated platform style jumping, or is this more, are we going for a slightly more grounded kind of, Uncharted-esque mantling up?
I think you can actually go a exaggerated sort of comical jump because you're not on Earth.
Okay, so you just go with the gravity.
You just say basically the gravity is different, so therefore that's why you're getting away with it.
Yeah. I do love the idea of some really cool animation with the pogo stick and stuff. Like, you get a really good blast going, and as you come down, he's kind of losing his footing and just like hanging on for dear life until he, just before he lands, he kind of gets makes another blast or something.
I'm imagining really cool. That, like when you fire yourself up into the air with the pogo stick, you can actually like unlock an ability that he goes into slow motion and decides where he wants to land, like
or even being able to shoot.
Yeah,
because we haven't talked about shooting
from up there or something like that. One of the things that early Apogee games brought in was, and I can't believe they actually did this, but limited charges on your ray gun.
Oh yeah, you had to find ammo, eh?
You always had to find ammo, and it was so limited that you start the game without any charges.
Right. That's right. How else did you defeat them? Did you just have to avoid them?
Some of the lesser enemies you could jump on, and other than that, it was just avoid.
Yeah.
So I think I like the idea about bringing some of that back, just to show that violence isn't always the option.
Maybe what you do, that's fair. I think modern audiences, if we're sort of doing that kind of analysis, would find that really frustrating. But to kind of go with the spirit of it, maybe there's kind of a
charging station.
Well, yeah, but it recharges anyway, but just quite slowly. So, like, if you do 5 blasts in quick succession, you're not going to be able to fire for like another 10 seconds or something. And maybe you can upgrade the gun later so that your base recharge is faster or something. But it's I think that would just running out and having it be empty until you pick something up would probably frustrate a modern audience, I would say. But yeah, I like the idea that, especially if you give decent traversal stuff. I mean, you've got the pogo stick, that's going to let you kind of really, use those avoidance techniques. And again, I love the idea of taking the traversal of the pogo stick and really digging deep into what that means. So you can do things like, pogo stick up high and where there's a wall and then wall jump off it or something, to kind of get some distance in the opposite direction. Almost a bit like Mario's wall jump,
Yeah.
You could do some really cool, and actually that's interesting because, Commander Keen was made sort of in direct response to Mario, right? Like to show, hey, this can be done on a computer.
Yeah. I've sort of dug into the background behind what Apogee and ID were trying to do at the time.
Yeah.
And ID literally, they decided that they wanted to try and make a 3D scrolling thing on game on the PC, and they inserted their character Dangerous Dave into a game called Dangerous Dave and the Copyright Infringement, and it was literally a copy of the Super Mario Brothers 3. One of the famous levels of Super Mario Brothers 3.
Right.
And then they took it to Nintendo to basically say, look, we want to do this.
Yeah.
Nintendo basically said, no, we don't want to do that. So they came up with their own thing. And one of the first things that they came out with was Commander Keen and ID of Doom and all those sort of games came up with the Commander Keen property, and Apogee just published it.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna suggest before we went the rare route that we go and just give it back to id Software and put it in the Rage 2 engine or something. But no, I like where we're going with this so far.
Yeah, I think it's sort of taking what was good about the Commander Keen games, whether you take it just directly from sort of the Marooned on Mars sort of idea, or whether you actually go the Goodbye Galaxy sort of route, where there was a lot more variety in the levels.
Well, yeah, look, I think, again, modern level design is going to be a lot different. Yeah. You'd take aspects of it. You'd take the environments. You'd take the I'd love to see those little fucking one-eyed alien things running around in nicely rendered 3D. Mm-hmm. But yeah, what I like about it is this sort of the traversal stuff with the pogo stick. Look, we haven't gone particularly deep on the shooting. Like, in that game, he just pretty much had a standard ray gun, and that was it the whole time, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I like the idea that it's nothing more than the standard ray gun. But what you can do is like get new traversal sort of things that you can unlock, maybe.
Well, and I think you would have to look. I like the idea of him just sticking with that one gun, but maybe he learns new techniques or something. Maybe he could like bounce it around a corner, or
maybe at first all he can do is just shoot when he's on the ground, and then later on he gets. When he gets the pogo stick, like he unlocks a time slowing thing in which he can actually, have time to shoot up in the sky. And I really like that idea for a game. It
look, I think the right studio could do something really
ID
cool.
haven't actually done something with Commander Keen again.
I mean, because they don't care about platformers anymore.
Yeah, but they could turn it into something like totally different to what they've been doing. Using the same engine.
I think it comes down to because they've always been about pushing the envelope on technology, right? And so for Commander Keen, that was doing that, and then Wolfenstein and Doom, and it goes on from there. You'd have to, if you could give John Carmack, a problem that he would only be able to solve by making a new Commander Keen, then they'd do it.
Yeah, but unfortunately, John Carmack left there ages ago and went over to Oculus, so you're not going to have too much stuff from id coming from John Carmack's mind anymore.
Well, no, but he might come back.
So, have you got any ideas for a reboot?
Yeah, actually, I'm moving away from some of the Apogee platformers, which were obviously our bread and butter.
Oh yeah,
and this is a game I talked about a couple of weeks ago in passing, but a game that was not hugely popular, but I was always looking out for a copy of it. I'm not sure I ever got a full version of it. So it was this game called Rocket Jockey.
Mm-hmm.
And the aesthetic was really cool, and it was basically just people riding on these kind of single-barreled rockets, just like a fucking space rocket with a jet coming out the back.
Yep.
They sort of had some stabilizers. But the only way you could turn it is by grappling out left or right onto these poles and like rotating around.
Mm-hmm. Now, what sort of view were you in? Was it
like
a top down?
Yeah, like a third person. No, it was like third person. Like over basically you were behind the rocket, and it had some really cool physics, and your bits would break off the side and stuff. So I'm thinking give it the full kind of Burnout Paradise treatment, where this is a full open world game, but you come up with some cool shit around why these people are riding rockets. Is everyone riding rockets? And create a bunch of different events, obviously a bunch of different rocket types and things, and then also give different moves. In this game, literally your controls were left or right. And you could, of course, hook onto other rockets. You could hook onto the people on the rockets and pull them off and drag them behind you and stuff. And so, you want to keep some real sort of humorous physics-based stuff. But add in some verticality to it too, so you can fire upwards with your grappling hook, and that obviously will zoom you up, and then you let go, and you can kind of get some air before you come back down, or do a full loop to loop and get behind someone if you're trying to take them out or something. I feel like there's a lot of things we could do there. Okay,
so not knowing how the original game was, where I'm sort of picturing could be kind of awesome is that this thing is in space. So it doesn't have any gravity or anything like that, but it's a fully 3D racetrack that you're going around. So you're in this race, and the only way that you can turn is again by grappling, but you can grapple in 3 dimensions to sort of pull yourself. Yeah. So, you know, you've got the height happening as well, and you sort of got to follow along with beacons. What you can actually have is you can have like a, sort of like the old Mario Kart games and that sort of stuff. If you get off the track and you literally have nothing to pull you back onto the track, then someone sort of pulls you back onto the track.
Yeah.
But I think having like a 3D, you know, racetrack that you got to sort of try and follow and change directions by,
look, I think the 3D, in that. I think the 3D could be cool, but I think you still want to be on the surface of something. So maybe a bit more of like almost like a bit of a wipeout track with multi
F-Zero.
Yeah, with multi levels and things. But you can use your techniques to get up to get onto a different level, get up higher, you know, get the drop on someone by coming down from below and, you know, grappling them off their rocket. Look, I'm looking at a video of it right now. And it's fucking funny. And if you get yanked off your rocket, you can actually like walk around. You have to go and find your rocket or someone else's rocket and get back on it, you know?
Nice.
So there's almost a bit of, well, and that's another thing, actually. I could almost picture a bit of a Tony Hawk vibe. Cause I was just thinking of like Tony Hawk Underground where you could get off your skateboard. But, you know, cause you could really do a lot of tricks and moves and stuff that could be part of the level, you know? That are specifically made to follow this track to get the right stuff.
Okay, so should it be more of a Burnout Paradise or Midnight Club sort of racing in which you don't have you've just got a spot on the map that you got to get to. Yeah. It doesn't matter how you get there, you just got to get there.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then you do have races that have certain
checkpoints that you got to go through.
But otherwise, yeah, you're kind of just going around this open world and you can do tricks and you can fucking, I don't know, steal other people's rockets and by pulling them off.
Taking it from a Tony Hawk sort of point of view as well, maybe there's like side quests that you can do throughout the open world in which someone needs you to help get like their kitten down from a tree. So you
got to grapple it down. Yeah. Well, and the other thing,
grapple it down, or you knock it down with your rocket.
With your rocket,
it means that you got to sort of do a launch off this jump, and you know.
Well, and maybe you get different points for whether the kitten survives. You know. If you knock it down with your rocket, it's probably going to smush it. If you grapple it, it might be okay. But if you literally just like fly past it and reach out and grab it, it's probably going to be fine. But the other thing I was thinking is police, right? Like you could have police chases in a bit of a Need for Speed Hot Pursuit kind of way, where if you do take someone else's rocket, then that actually puts you into, you know, a police race, a hot pursuit race.
Yep.
Where you have to get away from them and either, again, get to a certain place, which is determined as your, you know, safe haven or something.
Okay, cool. I think we've got a pretty good idea of what can happen with that. What should I go with? I've got 2 in mind. How about I put both out at you?
Okay.
And you choose which one you want to go down. Now, I'm only going to say the names. If you don't know what it's about, it doesn't matter. We're just taking the names.
Okay.
So the first one is Magic Carpet.
Mm-hmm. Old Bullfrog classic, yes.
Mm-hmm. And the other one is Quarantine.
Quarantine. Is that like an RPG-ish thing?
No.
All right,
I'll give you a little bit of a hint as to what.
That was the taxi game?
The taxi game.
Yes, I do remember that now. All right. Those are both interesting, so maybe we'll do them both. But let's start with Magic Carpet.
Yep.
Because we've just sort of done a driving/racing/whatever game.
Yep.
Magic Carpet. Look, that was, I seem to recall, almost just a tech demo when it first came out, really, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, pretty much.
It had goals and stuff, but the whole thing was the being able to change the terrain and just the speed that you'd move across it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, definitely sort of ahead of its time in a lot of ways, but not a lot of game there. So where could we take, without being racist, someone flying a magic carpet?
So I had a little bit of a go at this game the other day.
Yeah.
It is incredibly hard to actually control. But I'm thinking with today's sort of technology, you could actually control that magic carpet a lot better. Now, where I'm sort of picturing is that it's maybe even set in like current day. In, say, New York, your brother happens to own like a carpet emporium, and he gets this new batch of carpets in from maybe out of storage or something like that. And this one you happen to sit down on, and it literally starts to hover. And so you decide to start going around and helping people throughout the city. So nowadays, could you imagine like flying through buildings and stuff and like having to sort of like chase down, like early levels are like chase down a kid's balloon that got away, and then, you know, later levels are literally chasing people who stole a jetpack from like this testing facility. And so you're the only one who can sort of maneuver around the city fast enough to actually catch up to these people.
Yeah. I do like that idea of it being in modern day. I'm getting just a little bit almost too much of a like a Spider-Man-esque or like the sort of classic that real current gen open world sort of thing. So I'm trying to think how we can mix it up a bit. I do like the idea of being able to just zoom around on a magic carpet. That is cool.
But I'm not talking about you being a superhero.
No, I know. But
you've got no powers.
It's going to start
not a
feeling
Superman
like
64. It's literally all your superpowers are you can fly.
But that's a superpower, and if you're talking about doing, you know, solving all these crimes and helping people, then you're basically going down the superhero route. One thing I did think of, and this may or may not work, but it could be an interesting VR thing, in that the VR works quite well if you don't physically have to, if you can be in something or on something that is moving, so that your traversal and movement isn't reliant on you pretending you're moving your feet, sort of thing. So I could almost picture this as a bit of a sitting down VR experience where you're leaning and maybe like grabbing like you've got the corners of your carpet in your hands, sort of thing, to like really do some tight turns or something.
Oh God, I'm just imagining the motion sickness right now.
Oh yeah, it'd be an extreme experience, but or you could have it almost entirely controlled by your sort of your leaning and stuff, and you can be casting spells and things like in the actual Bullfrog's magic carpet. Could also be kind of cool.
Yeah. Okay, so I am liking the VR aspect, as much as it pains me to say, like that my stomach wouldn't support it. But my only concern would be about the leaning, about if someone wasn't sitting down on the floor, that they'd fall off their chair.
Yeah, well, that's on them. No, look, it could maybe be slightly. I mean, maybe it's not entirely leaning. Maybe it is just the like you've got the corners of the carpet, so you're kind of grabbing the sides a bit to sort of pull up, pull left, pull right, to kind of guide it in certain ways.
Okay, so what I'm picturing is that each corner has these two tassels that are kind of like a rein. In that, but you can let go of any one of them at any time and sort of fire off some magic spells and shit, and then reach down and pick it up again to
and I think it's got a little bit of kind of autopilot. Like if you go the sort of Aladdin-esque route, it could have a bit of sentience to it even. Or you know, it's a magical creature of sorts.
Now I'm picturing that, you know, it holds the tassel up for a high five sort of thing.
Totally, absolutely.
That'd be kind of cool. I'm thinking that you can have time trials throughout the city, like you're trying to get through the city, hitting all the checkpoints really, really quickly. But some of these checkpoints are right down against the street, and some of them are way up high at the top of the building, so that you're going to have that sort of roller coaster-esque sort of movement.
Look, I think it works perfectly for those sorts of flying challenges.
Awesome.
If you really get the controls right. Now, would you want to bring in spells and stuff? Like, is there a story to this? You know, again, like we said, the original Magic Carpet was kind of almost just a tech demo. There wasn't an overarching story particularly.
I think maybe this carpet was once a being of immense power, and got turned into a magic carpet by, I don't know, some sort of curse. Evil Jinn or something like that, but just being in close proximity unlocks like magical powers that it gives you and that sort of stuff. So you can actually have it. You yourself don't have it, but anyone who sort of uses this magic carpet actually has it.
Yeah. And is the goal to like free this being from its carpetous form?
Yes. And that leads into Magic Carpet 2, in which the magic carpet actually turns out to be an evil being.
Oh, yeah, and you freed it and it's just like destroying the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool, I like it.
Yep. Okay.
So, Quarantine was an interesting game. I seem to recall it was basically you played a taxi driver in like a dystopian future?
Yes.
That's ripe for possibility.
Yeah, so one of the things that you could actually do was like fit your car out with like weapons and stuff. You still had to like take passengers to places, but you could also like get hijacked along the way and all that sort of stuff. So I'm thinking it's sort of like a dystopian New York City, just because
everything's set in New York City,
New Jack City or Escape from New York or something like that, in which it's like, you know, quite run down. There's gangs going around everywhere, just trying to take out, you know.
Yeah,
trying to steal all the cars and all that sort of bullshit.
Yeah.
So, picturing in today's sort of thing, you know, there's martial law on the streets, but still people need to get from A to B.
But there's still commerce, there's still capitalism, of course, but the lawlessness in certain parts and police brutality in other parts, and so you're trying to make your way through this world as a lowly cab driver.
Yeah, so I'm sort of thinking it's kind of Crazy Taxi, but without necessarily the time limits. But it's more.
Yeah, I don't think it's about the time limits, although, you know, you could definitely have penalties for being too slow. Depending, and again, like, it could be depending on the passenger. Like, if they're really in a hurry because they're being chased or something, then, you know, the faster you go, the less likely it is that you're actually going to run into trouble and people you have to kill. You might just be able to get them away and get them to their place. But if you go too slow, then you're going to run into the gangs that are after them. And yeah, so you just have some easy fares as well that just kind of give you a bit of world building, give you a bit of conversation.
So I kind of like the idea that story is happening, but you aren't involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's still story going on that every day you've got like a couple of fares that you're always going to sort of have as long as they live, and you find out different things about what they're doing, and like maybe one of the guys is like the mayor of the city that you're looking after, and he's the one that's every day, you know, he changes his time every day because he never wants the gangs to get used to his schedule. And so I just like the idea of you spending your money to upgrade your taxi to get it like more armor plated and like better weapons and better, well, you can either choose defensive or offensive weapons.
Yep.
So you can like have like the typical James Bond sort of oil at the back that you turn a corner, drop some oil, and they just go skidding off into the building and explode.
Yep. Fire smoke at your exhaust to like just confuse them and get out of their line of sight and that sort of thing. Or just full on fucking rocket launchers.
I'm really liking this idea just because it's
I think there's a lot there. Look,
so over the top.
I'm kind of picturing it as mostly a sort of systems-based world in that, you go through your day and fares are kind of procedurally generated as to where they show up, except for, like some specific story-based stuff. And, I don't think it necessarily shows up the same time, same day, every game or whatever.
Yep.
So that each game is fairly different. And, based on your play style, based on your weaponry that you decide to choose, decide to outfit your,
depending on
outfit your cab.
How you actually are as a taxi driver. I mean, if you are really, really shit and you let your passengers get killed, then you're going to have a bad time. You're only going to be getting low quality passengers who probably could afford more, better protection or something like that.
That could actually be an interesting branching aspect of the storyline. That maybe there are sort of two or, multiple paths through where if you're really good and you sort of make a name for yourself as, you're not just a cab driver, then you're basically providing protection, then you do start getting the fares like the mayor and, important people and finding out a bit more of what's going on, in the upper echelon of the city. But if you're crap at it, maybe that gives you the opportunity to go down some of the sort of more criminal paths where...
Well, I'm thinking if you're, offensively going out and killing people, then you get the you get the mafioso types that are basically like, okay, I want you to go pick this person up, but as you pick them up, I want you to kill them.
Yeah.
And you get the more hitman
basically,
sort of,
you're basically a sort of assassin then.
Yeah. Whereas if you're defensive in your style, then you're going down the sort of routes of maybe a bodyguard sort of style.
Now, the game's called Quarantine.
Yes.
And I think the idea was that that this city had been quarantined off from the rest of the world. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I guess we'll stick with that. Story-wise, how do we want to go into sort of what's happened, or are we just going to take it as a plot device to, keep you in a small area?
Well, I think it's one of these things that, like, they talk about quarantined areas every day. So what area you cannot drive through today and that sort of stuff. So you've also got, like, different parts of the map that during certain days you cannot travel into.
Or that if you do, you're going to be in more danger of certain things or something.
Yeah. But, the city as a whole is you're within a quarantined area that you cannot leave the city.
Yeah, I just wonder if you start to find out about, like, does everyone know why that is, or they've been told one thing, and maybe you start finding out that something else.
Maybe this is a couple of generations down the line since when this event happened.
Okay, so there could be some interesting stuff on finding out what's going on in the rest of the world, like outside of this city. Yeah. Barely anybody knows. The whole life is just in the city.
Yeah. So what I'm picturing the gameplay is going to be like is, if you remember the old game Driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea that it's sort of like good arcadey sort of driving.
Yeah. Are we going to stick with the first person that the original game was?
Yeah, I think you got to.
Within the car. Yeah.
Within the car.
Okay. Not many of those these days, I feel like, or at least not that don't give you the option.
No.
I think most are built for third person because they want to show off their shiny car models.
I think what I like about that, though, is that, you can do the drive-bys if you need to, because you can just, turn to the side and...
Yeah. It gives you a little bit more flexibility in some ways, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I like
that, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I reckon we go into our regular segments now.
All right. Let's go to some click pitch. We can do that. We've done it 102 times before. We can do it once more.
Yep. So, do you want to tell everyone what this is about, if they've made it this far into the episode?
Sure thing. Click Pitch is a game where we each have a random word generator in front of us. And on the count of 3, 2, 1, click, we will click refresh and get a new set of words each. We are going with a ramped up click pitch, so we have a phrase, an adjective and a noun each. We will put them together, and from that, we shall conceive a game child. We'll make a game design. We'll talk about it. We'll laugh. Then we'll throw it away. 3, 2, 1, click.
A baby with a bathwater. Okay. 3, 2, 1, click.
Bloodier outburst.
Factorial nectarine.
Factorial nectarine. Okay. So, Factorial makes me think of that game Factorio, where you're like building conveyors and robot arms and things to generate and process resources.
Okay.
Maybe it's something around fruit picking via robotics. Robotic fruit picking machines.
Ooh, I like that. So what I imagine happens on the first day is the reason why you've been brought in, and you're a programmer. The previous programmer went a little bit crazy, and he sent the nectarine picker out into the human area and started picking like limbs off of the humans. And that was his bloody outburst.
That was his bloodier outburst. Okay. I like that. So you're coming into this organization, I guess.
Yes.
It's like an orchard or something, probably. Yep. Knowing that the last programmer fucked up in this big way and killed a lot of people.
Yep.
And so is this sort of a Factorio-esque, like, a game where you are setting up these systems and mechanical conveyors and things? Or is it around the programming of them and such?
What I'm thinking is it's making it all work together. So you've got the picker robot, you've got conveyors that transport all the nectarines back to the office, and then you got other robots that can do like sorting and that sort of stuff. And you've just got to do one sort of section at a time.
Yeah.
And then maybe you need to do an update on the sorting robot because they've been letting too many many dodgy ones through. So you can do an update on them and change some of the coding via a puzzle or something like that. But then you can get it better by letting the robot that's actually picking to actually pick better nectarines at the start rather than...
Right, so you've got different techniques based on what you want to upgrade. Well, I like the idea that there's actually some like coding almost that happens in this, like some of these games where you're doing basic logic stuff or putting these things together in the most efficient way.
Yeah.
That maybe you are writing some things where you've got a limited amount of pieces and you've got things like the color detection, and that feeds an output, into a decision-making thing to decide whether or not to pick it. But later on, you can get like the squeezing bit that also will give it a little squeeze to determine if it's ripe or not. So you can sort of, but then they take more processing power or something, and so you've got all these different things along the way. And again, like, you've got the little squeezing thing. Do you put that on the picker that squeezes it before it even picks it? And if that goes wrong, it could accidentally pull it off or it could squish it or something. Or do you wait until, you just pick everything and throw away the stuff that's not ripe or whatever based on the squisher and the color checker or whatever, on a later conveyor or something? That could be really cool.
So that's the first part of the game. I think what happens after a while is that you start noticing that some of the robots start
glitching or something.
Either glitching or you start thinking about like the stories that you heard about the previous programmer and how like it was fine one day, but then the next the robot literally went into the wrong section and started ripping the human pickers to pieces.
Yeah.
So what I'm starting to think is that like there's some nefarious things going on behind the scenes.
Maybe, although now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of like the idea that it's all part of the programming challenge. Like, it's inevitable that people are going to be near these things, but they're so efficient that if they squeeze you, like this is part of your challenge. If you've got the thing on the picker that says, if this is, has this level of give to it and is this amount of pink, then pull it off the tree. Then that's going to work really well for nectarines and also, people's heads. And so maybe part of the challenge...
Especially sunburnt people.
Yeah, well, maybe part of the challenge then is around at what point you put these different checks to avoid human casualties. And so you build it all in such a way that any little device or thing that you can add to your whole system can also be very, very dangerous if you set it up in a way that it detects a human.
God, where my mind went was just not a good place.
No.
No. I don't know whether I should say it.
Say it.
So one of the workers comes in off maternity leave.
Oh, God. Yeah, you shouldn't have said it. We're not picking babies' heads off their bodies. Gross. Yeah, I like that little addition to a sort of otherwise fairly standard, put your conveyors and things together in a nice, efficient way. To have to add like, a human walked across my conveyor belt and that meant I detected the pressure and I juiced them.
God. I think what actually starts happening is you get some people who they just jump on the conveyor belt just to get a quick ride back to the office.
Yeah, totally. And they all get into the habit of that, and then you put an extra picking mechanism in place, and they all die.
So what I like is the fact that the only visuals that you actually get to see of these robots are like on the monitor that you're working on. So you don't actually get to go out into the field or anything like that. It's only you're only hearing of things happen on over the radio. You hear of things you see things happening sort of in a digital sort of way.
Okay, so you've got like a schematic.
A schematic of.
So you can kind of see, like, you can click on any of them and see. Oh, okay, they've grabbed something. They're checking the color. This is the decision they've made.
Yeah.
And then based on what the next thing along the line says, okay, that's good. They picked 20 nectarines successfully. But when you see that they found an amazingly large nectarine that was excessively juicy, and they couldn't. It had a very large pit, and weirdly enough, when they got inside it, it was quite squishy. That maybe something's gone wrong. Something's gone wrong. Something's gone wrong.
You hear some screaming on the audio that you happen to turn down because it was.
And then the next day you get a memo saying, "Can you tweak the code in Unit 57B so that it does not quite detect that shade of red?"
Okay, let's click again. 3 to 1. Ebony hallway.
Neglectful midriff.
God. Okay, so...
All right, wait. Well, no, let me go. So, I'm thinking Ebony Hallway is the name of a band.
Okay, yeah, colour noun, yep.
Colour noun, exactly. Ebony Hallway. And something happens mid-riff on one of their shows. Due to some neglect. And that's like the start of the story.
Okay,
Someone dies, like maybe the lead singer dies or something. Sort of a narrative rock and roll adventure.
Well, what I was actually thinking is, does this thing that happens mid-riff have something to do with time?
Ooh, okay.
And like this, mid-riff, does time sort of split apart?
Oh, so it's like a sliding doors sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So do you get to make a choice?
Yeah, I think there's a choice that gets made at this point.
It's like whether someone crowd surfs or something, or
I don't know. Maybe there's a whole heap of different things going on, and based off of your choice depends on what actually happens at that point. Okay. But what actually happens from now on is you sort of get to see both choices that are playing out as you go, so you can sort of see the branching. Oh, parts.
That's an interesting way to do a branching story. Yeah. To really go that sliding doors thing where you're playing both sides.
Yep.
And seeing the difference. And yeah, you could do some really interesting things around, you explore the relationships with the characters based on, their reactions and the things that happen in the two different universes.
Because, I mean, one of the things that I always hate about some adventure games is sometimes you want to go, what would have happened if I chose that other thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
But to basically have that as the core gameplay, that as you're going, you are going to see everything that both sides of the coin.
So this would be a really interesting adventure game, like almost a point and click adventure, or like a third person adventure, but more around inventory and conversation puzzles. Because I like the idea of you literally most of the time play through each scene twice. But like that the two universes follow closely enough together most of the time that you're going to the same places, you're meeting the same people, but the puzzles then are completely different. So like, it's not like you're just redoing the same puzzles to hear different conversation. It's the scenes, and particularly as you go further along, I think they sort of diverge a lot more, based on, the aftermath of that decision. That, you're still in the same place, but like you switch back and it's like completely different. You're in one and you're in someone's apartment and it's all nice, and you go to the next one, it's completely trash because they're like on drugs or something.
So what I'm now wondering is to show the difference between the characters. Mm-hmm. I remember there was many, many years ago a certain commercial that Michael Jackson was doing some shots for.
Okay.
And do you know about the Pepsi commercial that he was involved in and what happened?
It rings some bells, but tell us.
Fireworks went off and it burnt his hair and he ended up in hospital and all that sort of stuff. So I think what happens this mid-riff is that you make a decision whether to, go towards the front and playing the riff, not realizing that
the pyrotechnics are going to go off.
The pyrotechnics are about to go off. So basically it singes your hair, and basically it means that you've now got short hair throughout the rest of it. And
I thought you were going to say that they get damaged and nearly killed and a whole new lease on life, and that's how things change. But no, it's just down to the hair.
Well, that.
I mean, I know. Like a near-death experience.
Let's change the appearance on the character based off of that choice.
Yeah, okay.
And that choice was literally you either go forward and you're right up against the fold back and you're shooting, bass riff out into the crowd, a la, Steve Harris and Iron Maiden, or you can just stay back. And it's at this point that,
so if you stay back, do the pyrotechnics just go off as normal, or does someone else get hurt?
They go off as normal, and maybe someone else gets hurt. I don't know. It's one of these things that, that's basically,
you could do some interesting things then, again, because if you want to be sort of really comparing the two different universes but in the same sort of locations, like you in a hospital bed versus you visiting somebody else in a hospital bed sort of thing, and how that might affect the dynamics of the band, depending on, if it's the front person that gets hurt versus you, and just really explore the relationships then between the different characters.
Okay. Yep. I can see that.
That could be cool.
It goes down a legal pathway of that's how you make all your money because you sued the company that
that like set up the stage or something.
Yep. Or the lead singer sues the company and they get all the money, and it's based off of how resentful you are of
to still have your hair and well, I think there's more damage than just that. Maybe it actually prevents them from being able to perform anymore or something. Or if you make that choice.
But yeah, I like the idea of it going down two different paths, a la sliding doors. I really need to see that film again. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Yeah, I guess I could put up with Gwyneth Paltrow's wooey face for a little while. Without thinking about all the things she tells people to shove up their vaginas. Under the name of health. Yeah. Should we do one more?
Yes, we shall.
3, 2, 1, click. Solidified tablespoon.
Strangled loudness.
Okay. So solidified tablespoon made me think of The Matrix. I feel like that's a property we haven't looked at in a little while.
Yeah.
But I don't want it. I don't want it to be Neo.
No, I want to be the kid.
Boring.
The kid that says there is no spoon.
Well, maybe.
But him grown up.
Maybe. Yeah, I think something along those lines. Did you ever watch The Animatrix?
Yes.
And how they explored a lot of different characters within the world of The Matrix, often around it like glitching out. Well, I remember particularly one was around like they found a glitch in the Matrix sort of thing where things could float or something. I like that idea of just being another random person within the Matrix. But then maybe you're hunting a serial killer who has some level of control over the Matrix perhaps, and that's where the strangled loudness comes in.
Well, because I wasn't thinking strangled from a physical strangle point of view, but the idea of a strangled loudness of basically a restrained loudness or something like that in this particular area in this backlot. Basically, if someone stands in this area and shouts, no one can actually hear them outside of that little area.
That could be an aspect. And so, yeah, there's basically a glitch there in the physics of that space. I do really like the idea of a cop or someone who doesn't realize they're in the Matrix, finding it out through an investigation or realizing something's wrong and eventually finding it out and coming in contact with people who are unplugged and are jacking back in.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
you can always really tell cool. Because they're always in black and they've got sunglasses on inside it.
Well, I think this could even be, again, you could keep it completely different. Maybe they've got a completely different aesthetic. Like this is another ship out there in the Resistance, or they're agents, or both, like you come in contact with both, or literally just like the sequels, as, disappointing as they were for the most part, showed that there are, all these different people in various levels of understanding and control of the Matrix and programs and things, who are basically sentient. And yeah, I feel like there's a lot you could do there, but I'd love the idea of just making it fairly subtle, at least to begin with. And again, you could, and this never works in games because it's too hard to keep it a secret, but I love the idea of it starting out just as feeling like a detective game, but then you start seeing glitches.
Yeah. Okay. So the first one that you see is like this. This glitch that you see a kid that you go and you investigate this crime in this backlot.
Yeah, and you're like, how, like they were killed in the noisiest way possible, and you question all the people around you, like, how did nobody hear this? And then something else happens when you are able to witness it, and you can sort of start experimenting with it, and you realize, oh wait, there's like a complete void of sound here, like basically a sound barrier around this back lot.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm now wondering is, how did this person die? Did they get maybe chopped up by a chainsaw?
So you're just trying to figure out what would be the loudest way for them to die. They were were blasted apart with the power of subwoofers.
Now I'm just picturing like that old TDK ad.
Oh, I don't remember
the guy's sitting down. They've got like the massive speakers in front of him,
right?
And like they turn it on, and like literally stuff is getting blown off to the from beside him and all that sort of stuff.
I was basically picturing Marty McFly at the start of Back to the Future, but like three of them pointed in three different directions and all turned on at once.
Oh, Jesus Christ! No, I like the idea of this being you're just a character who doesn't know about the Matrix. It's not even picked up as a Matrix game.
No, exactly. I like the idea of taking it in kind of the Cloverfield direction, where like how that IP has kind of been taking these odd movies and just giving them a little Cloverfield twist in a way. Yep. And look, I don't know. Well, I kind of like the idea that it doesn't get fully, like, this guy doesn't get him unplugged. No. I think he's just on the fringes of this and he finds stuff out about it and he does start to get a bit of an understanding of it. But like, I think it'd be best if no one ever says the words The Matrix.
Do you know what would be awesome?
Mm-hmm.
If halfway through the game, you're going into the boss's office and then all of a sudden he just wakes up at home.
Okay.
And so he doesn't know what's actually been going on. But it turns out that like his body was taken over by one of the agents.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So
and then as you go about your business that next day, you sort of hear about the fact that you just disappeared or that, you know, someone saw some weird guy in glasses turn into you, or so, like go into your house or something, or I don't know, however that's going to work. But
and just, you know, sort of have it almost like a Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing, that he loses time and all this sort of stuff. But it just turns out that, you know,
he's just a good host. He happens to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And somehow never get killed. Because whenever bloody in the Matrix they killed an agent, like that civilian just died.
Yeah.
In the Matrix.
It's kind of sad.
No longer usable as a battery. Battery waste.
Recycled.
Recycled. You got recycled. Oh my God.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, click.
Yeah.
One more, and then we'll finish up.
Stapled adept.
Zany carpeting.
Okay. Carpet stapling game, some sort.
I'm just like, that works really, really well.
Yeah, let's go. I was going in more of a like office spacey direction before that, but okay, carpeting, laying carpet. So you're adept at laying carpet. There's something zany. I mean, I'm picturing this a little bit like a 4-player couch multiplayer sort of thing. Where you're sort of laying carpet in different. You know, you get points for laying carpet. Maybe you've got different types of carpet that can affect the other people. Then can you pull up other people's carpet?
And, yeah, I think it's sort coverage. Of like it's a competitive multiplayer game in which you're trying to carpet the room with your own color.
Yeah.
Which means that you got to sort of like go along and staple it into the floor and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, look, I like the idea of having to. You actually have to like staple. You use the thumbstick or something or the D-pad to like staple in a direction, and so you can just staple, you know, along the edges. But that's going to make it easier for someone else to come along and rip it up if you don't get sort of the next piece in time or something. Or you can staple all 4 of them down, but it takes a bit longer and uses up more staples.
So I'm wondering whether this is not traditional carpet in that. You know, you're sort of getting a whole roll of it that you got to pull in. I'm thinking you got carpet squares.
Yes, that's basically what I was thinking. Yeah.
So one of the things that you can do is like staple your carpet over the top of someone else's.
Okay. Do you get less points based on how uneven the floor is?
Yeah, you get less points because, you know, you're sort of doing an upwards as such.
Yeah.
But I think what you can actually do is you've got 2 tools, but you got either a stapler or you've got like the staple remover, which is basically just a huge crowbar.
Yeah.
That, you can just sort of stick underneath the carpet and just pry off. The thing is, you can only carry one tool at a time.
Yep.
So running back to the toolbox, which is in the hallway, and running back into the room to
will take up time. Yeah.
Will take up time. So, is it worth running back out there?
And then the other thing
staples,
is, can you throw the
running
crowbar
back out there and getting the crowbar and like maybe you can attack people with it and you put them out for like 2-3 seconds.
Well, I like the idea that you can literally throw it across the room. So if you see them running back for their crowbar and you've already got yours, you can sacrifice it by throwing it at their head, and that'll give you some time to put down some more squares.
No, but that's the thing. You won't have the staple gun. You can only carry one tool at a time.
Well, maybe you've got someone else's staple gun because you knocked them out as well.
Because I think there's got to be a reason for you having to always go back out into the room. I think maybe you can only hold like 3 or 4 carpet squares at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I'm picturing a bit of an overcooked sort of thing where, you've got a sort of a limited amount of things you can carry. You've got tools that you can pick up and use, and you have to sort of run back and avoid other people or attack other people to get the things that you need to continue. So what sort of hazards and things can we put in place? Do we go an overcooked-ish vibe where you're in these really outlandish situations?
I kind of like that. I kind of like the idea of maybe having to do it on a pirate ship or having to do it on an airplane as an air hostess is trying to like serve people.
Yeah, and you're just like laying carpet down below them, getting them to lift up their feet so you can put a piece below them. I like the idea of like doing it on 2 floors of an apartment building with elevators going up and down or something. That could be really interesting.
I'm thinking the lobby of a hotel, and you're having to deal with the busboys and
the bellboys,
and that sort of stuff. That are
the bellboy blasts.
Yeah, they're all sort of running around the room, sort of taking people's stuff up, and you're having to sort of dodge them and staple down the carpet. It's
a crossover game with bellboy blast, totally.
Just that one room.
Just that one level.
And then,
spaceship.
The
Star
most
Trek
craziest
Enterprise.
Location.
The Star Trek. Did you know that? I just said the Star Trek Enterprise because that's what the ship is called. All aboard the Star Trek Enterprise.
Yeah. So I was thinking that you got this convention center that you're like trying to put it in, but the thing is, all the cosplayers are all dressed up as Garfield.
God. That's a callback to fucking 80 episodes ago or something.
Yeah. But I'm just picturing having to do that while there's like they're investigating the murder or whatever it was in that
yeah.
game.
Well, and also that's going to be a big level if you're trying to carpet an entire convention center.
Now I'm picturing like other outlandish scenarios, like in an interrogation room while there's an interrogation going on.
Jesus. Okay.
So there's cops like talking to this bad guy, and you're like running around, stapling down carpet samples, throwing crowbars at each other.
Yeah,
I like it.
That's cool.
So the question is, can you attack other people with the staple gun as well? Like, can you staple their hand to the wall?
I like the idea that you can just staple their feet to the ground and it slows them down for a few seconds.
Yep.
But it still gives them the mobility to, like, if they've got the crowbar at that point, maybe they can throw it at you as you move away. So you
I'm now thinking that they got the crowbar and they get it up underneath the carpet sample, and as they're walking around, like they got a carpet sample on their left foot and nothing on their right.
Oh, that'd be funny, actually. That every time you staple someone's feet to the ground, the way they get loose is they pull up that carpet sample. So you could use that to sacrifice other people's carpet squares, but also, you do the animation in such a way that if you've stapled their right foot like 5 times, they're completely lopsided, and sort of lurching to the left a bit.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
That's cool.
That's a perfect one to end on.
All right. Yeah, I think we will end it there. Thank you for joining us this week on Bitstorm. If you want to find us online, best place is podchaser.com/Bitstorm. We've got our YouTube, our Facebook, our Twitter, all our stuff on there. Yeah, that's it. Go there and do that thing.
We'd like to plug our friends at the AGPN, the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network. An awesome bunch of people. who you should check out all their podcasts. Just search for #AGPN on Twitter, or look for the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network on Facebook. And finally, we'd like to thank Kuridas for the song Mount Defiance off of the album Containment Failure.
Thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
And I'm on a rocket. Woo!